What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. As you figured out by now, we have teamed up with Racers 360 for the 2020 season, and we are really excited about it. I've been a big fan of Dion and the coaching that he does since we first met. I've been using it quite a bit. I use their track breakdowns for any time I go to a new track. I talk to Dion when I can about ways I can improve. Any chance that I can to get better on track, I try to take advantage of it. So obviously this partnership is a little self-serving because I get to build that relationship with Dion and then hopefully get better on track as well. But I've been using it all the time. The SCCA Time Trials National Tour that came through Heartland Park was the event that I used it probably the most last year. Before the event started, Dion put out the video that did the track breakdown and walked us through ways that you could improve, where you could pick up time. And I watched it to the point where I knew every corner before I got there. And it was raining and wet, and I was on slicks. So I was slipping inside and didn't really get a chance to actually put a real lap down. But once the track dried, I was able to improve my time in such a way that I went to the second fastest lap of the event. It was such an improvement that the rest of the weekend I was called a cheater and that the transponder failed. There's no way I put down that time. That everyone just said it was bullshit. So if you want to improve your times in such a way that the rest of the field gets to call you a cheater, Racers 360 is the way to do it. I mean, putting up an authentic time that's even leaps and bounds better than what you ever expected you could put down just shows the investment in this coaching is more than worth it. I'm a big fan of Dion. I'm a big fan of Racers 360. I wouldn't partner with them if I didn't believe in what they were doing. So we're doing a 7-day free trial for our listeners, but that really wasn't, in my opinion, that wasn't good enough to get people in the door. So I wanted to give you guys an incentive, give our listeners something back. So it's a 10% discount now. So if you go to the description of the show, just click on that, sign up, 10% off, and it's exclusive to our listeners, but that doesn't go out to everybody. We want you guys to get better on track. If you're serious about racing, Racers 360 is serious about making you improve. So check it out. I want to hear some testimonials this summer about our listeners that have improved. Welcome back to 10 Cents Podcast. I'm your host, Robert, and you are not seeing double if you're watching this on YouTube. Whoa. There's not two, well, there would be 3 Adams if you count the life-size Flatum. But I'm here with my co-host, Adam, and his father. And this is the first time I've ever said his name out loud.
Probably should have gone over this.
Rainer.
We'll go with, yeah.
Close enough.
It's close enough.
Rainer Nielsen. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I realized today that I'd never actually said it out loud. It's always been Adam's dad.
It's just Dad. It's fine.
So it's Dadum and Dadum.
Oh, Jesus. I'm excited about this. He's not excited about this. It'll be fine.
I don't do well with public communications and video.
It's just me and Robbie.
It's just a conversation between 3 friends.
So
why do you think Robbie does this?
I can't talk in public. Are you kidding me?
I'm not really good at it either.
Anyone that was at the Mid-Div convention could tell you I'm terrible at public speaking.
I've done a little bit of public speaking. I'm all right with that, but
yeah.
This kind of is nervous for me.
It's fun.
This is just internet fame.
It's totally anonymous.
Yeah.
So what's up? How's life?
Life is good.
Yeah? You didn't freeze to death?
No, everything I have is inside, so I work inside now.
Oh, so jealous.
It's nice.
Yeah. I don't want to start there. It's going to be worse tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be one. Oh, if this is the worst that we have all year, we're in a pretty good spot, though.
We're well on our way to not dealing with a pretty bad winter.
I'm at least 1 full tank of propane less than last year.
I don't doubt
That's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
Hundreds of dollars, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, that was a pretty dramatic change from last year to this year.
Yeah, it was brutal last year. So, what should we talk about? We got all kinds of things. I don't even know.
We can start by saying we're in the Kanga Motorsport studio.
Oh, yes.
James put out a pretty cool article that I was reading before you guys got here called Rubbing is Not Racing.
Somebody gets it.
And he wants to approach the topic because, well, he does Spec Racer Ford, and that's basically bumper cars. So it's funny that he writes the article that says, hey, maybe we should just lay
Pump the
off.
brakes on that?
Let's not hit each other so much.
I think that's, ever since I was little, that's one of his big reasons for drag racing, more or less, was that you never had to worry about the other guy.
You could build a high-quality car, and you could run the thing for 10 years and never have to worry about it getting it beat up.
Right.
Whereas when I was pits for people with the figure-8 cars or stock cars, I didn't do much stock cars, but I did a lot of pitting for figure-8 cars.
Right.
I pitted for 7 different drivers in figure-8s in my lifetime, and you were lucky if you got 2 seasons out of one of those cars.
That's crazy. And those are all but tube chassis cars, aren't they?
You have you have a full cage in the car, and you have a full cage in the front end, but the front cage cannot be connected to the main cage. At the firewall, they can't physically go through the firewall.
Okay. Because they didn't want them too stiff? Because there's an intersection on the racetrack?
They don't want you to meet in the intersection, and this is a way to make it so you don't have a tank.
It's still the craziest. That's one of those things I'll just never forget, is going to those every weekend and
the figure eights.
People.
I need to go see that.
We should do that sometime.
I'm down.
So. And you need to understand, figure 8 at a local fairgrounds is not the same as figure 8 where we grew up. Little town of Primgar, Iowa, and the JCs in Primgar have run the figure 8 track there for probably 50 years because it's been going. I started going there when I was driving.
Right, in your teenage years, like in high school and stuff.
And I'm a few years older than that now. So,
didn't you you guys used to just fire those cars up and rip them down gravel roads to get to the races at night?
We lived in a town about 20 miles away, and we had one trailer. And I think I can't remember. I think there was, when I was living in Sheldon, there was 5 or 6 figure 8 cars, and we only had one trailer. So we
doesn't really work on that.
We come up with a bright idea. We just run them on gravel roads all the way over to Sheldon, and then the last mile we just go back and forth with the trailer and pick up the car. We just drove the cars on the trailer and drove to the figure 8.
Just hold the brakes.
Just hold the brake. Drove to the figure 8 track, roll the car off, and go after the next one.
See, Robbie, we make this way more complicated than it needs to be.
Well, I mean, that's really not that far.
Well, it was a wonderful thing to do, but the problem was that you started racing at 7 o'clock at night, and at 10 o'clock at night, now you have to go home.
No,
we don't have any lights.
I didn't think about that.
We didn't either. I mean,
none of those cars would have lights at all.
No.
You just make a train and let the one car with lights lead?
It was something like that.
These
awesome.
are like open header V8 cars. It's not like they're sneaking around hoping that nobody sees them.
Yeah, but everybody likes that sound. I mean, even at midnight, they're like, it's fine.
And that was back in the days where if you got picked up by the cops, you got chewed out and told to park it in somebody's farmyard and go back after it tomorrow.
Yeah. Those were the days.
Yeah, the good old days.
Now everybody would think it's something serious.
But most figure 8 tracks that I've seen anyway, they're like, oh, it's fair week. Let's change up the main dirt track a little bit and make this figure 8 just for the exhibition race for the weekend. But the one in Primgar, that's permanently that way. It doesn't have a circle configuration.
It's a complete bank track. Yeah. And they've had somebody there. They've had the sheriff department there clocking some of those cars going through that intersection, and they're doing 50+ mile an hour when they go through the intersection.
Dude, it's the craziest
That's insane.
thing.
How could I have lived so close to this?
If you go,
did you never go?
Never.
If you go mid-season,
like July,
where you have drivers that have got some experience there, you can see some phenomenal racing because those guys know how to just hit it just right. So that you miss everybody in the intersection, and it's really a lot of fun to watch.
It's the most anxiety-inducing thing I've ever done. If you have a emotional attachment to a driver, you probably shouldn't go. Wives, not highly recommended.
Oh, I'm sure.
There's plenty of them who are out in the stands in tears the whole time, smiling. But
how far is that turn away from the parking lot?
It's not.
That looks like it's a hop and a skip and a jump away from being in a pile of cars.
There's probably a couple of tires or something there.
There's no tires.
It's you just can't see them, Robbie.
No, but it's severely banked. I mean, it takes a lot for you to go over the bank.
Okay.
Yeah, but I remember cars going over the bank.
Well, it happens. It happens. And there's cars that hit in the intersection too, but it's not. It doesn't happen a lot.
Right.
No, it's surprising.
The people who run that are very, very serious about it.
Yeah.
And if you get reckless or stupid, they'll black flag you and take you out.
Yeah.
And they just don't. They can't put up with that because you can't afford to hurt people.
No.
That's when insurance goes through the roof.
Yeah. So, what a wild thing.
We need to do this. I mean, like, just go to it.
Right, yeah.
I don't really need to do it.
Zero interest in driving.
I have a little interest in driving.
No, I don't have any interest
but
in driving.
I have more interest in just watching.
I would not be opposed to, like, getting a seat in a car in Boone, like at a circle track. I think that might be kind of fun to do. Fun. But I don't have any need to do the figure eight thing.
It's like riding a real bull.
Versus a mechanical bull?
Yeah. It's way more.
Well, like I said, I was in the pits for 5 or 6 cars in my lifetime, and I have yet to make one lap around that track. Zero interest.
I can see why it's not for everybody. I get that.
Yeah. That was a lot of my high school weekends after drag racing kind of phased out for us. That was where we were instead.
So when we first started doing that, the first car we had was a 59 Buick. You took all the glass out of it.
Those are small cars. It's fine.
You took all the glass out of it. You either chained or welded the door shut, and you went racing.
No cages or anything?
No cages.
Oh, my gosh.
That's insane.
Then one of my friends was into old Pontiac GTOs, and he had a whole fleet of them. And he come up with this 65 GTO that was pretty rusty. And we put a 428 Pontiac in it with the tri-power. He had a 4-speed transmission in the car, and he had rear end in that car that was some circle track gears. It was high 5s or low 6 series gears in that car. Jesus. And we went figure eighting with it. So we figure eighted a 65 GTO, and it wasn't a Le Mans, it was an actual GTO.
Does that hurt you a little bit now?
Now, but that car was really, really in rough shape.
Right. I'm sure there's been a handful of cars that have been destroyed at that track that, like, now it's like, oh, man.
If only could keep that.
Well, and then, over the years, they had to get a little bit more professional, and they had to get a little bit more safety-minded than they did when we originally started this. Now, like we said here a little bit ago, they're full-cage cars.
Yeah. I bet even now they probably require things like Hans restraints and stuff like that.
I think we had neck restraints and then at least a driving jacket. And the cars had to be run through manifolds. You can't put headers on them, but you could run a 4-barrel. Shoot, the last car we had, we put together a 383 Chevy for it, and that was a $5,000 short block with a set of New World heads on it back in the day. I mean, torque.
Oh, man.
We pulled that motor out of the figure eight car and put it in a friend's Malibu, and that was just a regular Malibu, and took it down to Marion to the drag strip. And just off the trailer, that car ran 1230s.
So that's not one of those like $100 motor claiming classes?
No, they don't do that there. The only stipulation they have is you have to run manifolds. So
it's kind of limited?
Yeah.
Jeez.
That's hilarious. So there's probably people out there like trying to find the manifold. There's 1 year of manifold or something that works better than
actually
everybody else.
the last car that we had, the guy who owned the car, he found a place in Wisconsin where they take manifolds and they acid dip them, and it wallows out the inside.
That's some circle track shit
and
right there.
He would come into the pits after racing, and you'd pull the hood off the top of that thing, and those manifolds just be glowing red because they're so thin.
I'm sure. That's some circle track
yes.
shit, for sure. I love it.
That's the same people that would dip the cage and
that was like that Sunoco Camaro. That
yes.
was one of the things that it was kind of famous for. Was that was a dipped car, and that's why it weighed so much less than a lot of the other cars of its time. And that was
sketchy.
It's great, Robbie.
I'm not saying it's not great.
Get the 240 dipped.
Let's not.
It's just like plasti dip, but lighter.
Yeah, it adds weight reduction.
Yeah.
One of the other cars that we circle track or figure eight raced back in the early 80s was a 1968 Catalina Convertible. That was the first. That was the first car that Prim Guy required that we put a roll cage in.
I believe that.
So you had a rule written for you.
Yeah. We had a rule written just for us.
Damn it.
How old were you when that happened?
30 or 20.
Oh, he's got you beat.
22, 23 years old.
He's got you beat by a lot.
See where I get it?
I get it.
See where I get it from?
The apple doesn't fall very far,
now,
man.
Doesn't it? Jeez. So, I mean, while we're here, let's talk about some of your early drag racing. Because I, as a very small child, vaguely remember what I think was the first 62 Tempest that you ran.
So I started drag racing in '83 when we moved down to Kansas.
Okay.
I had a '67 Firebird that was pretty much an original car, 400 automatic, 355 gear. Was that's like a 14 and a quarter second car on the quarter mile, and I got hooked.
Doesn't take much.
No.
And then I found a 62 Le Mans that was set up for drag racing, so I sold the 67 Firebird to come up with the money for the first 62 Le Mans I had.
And that's the one that I vaguely remember.
That was a red car with fender flares on it for the rear fenders because slicks don't fit underneath the 62 unless you either tub it or radius the fenders, which is what this had. It had a Camaro 12-bolt rear end in the back, 455 in it with an automatic, and a roll bar racing seat. It was a fun car. I went through the first motor, put the second motor in it, raced it, and like I said, I got hooked on drag racing. That's when we decided somewhere in the mid-'80s to build a full cage. So we built a full 14-point roll bar cage, and I found another 62 Le Mans body. We cut that completely off the frame and mounted it on this cage. And essentially it was set up for the super gas class, which is a 990 index at NHRA, but I never paid to have the motor to go that fast.
So is that the one that Robbie has pulled up there?
That is the car? One that is on the picture there, yes.
Okay. So that was... But that was version 2.0 of that car.
That car originally was a reddish burgundy color with yellow and orange scallops on it.
God, I think I have a picture of that buried somewhere.
And in the early 90s, we were moved back to Iowa, and I had the car at a drag strip in Humboldt, Iowa, and the transmission
was the rear end, wasn't it?
Yeah, the rear end locked up. And on the big end, after going down the track, and I tried to keep the car on upright, but with the back end skidding and those little front tires on the front, you can't do much. You just kind of went for the ride. And it went over on its side and eventually on its top. And when we redid it, it's the yellow and blue that we have on the picture here now.
It must have been too terrible then.
It wasn't too bad. I mean, I rode in the car and I knew it was going over, and it just kind of slow motion went on its side. And so you're on the driver's side sliding on asphalt thinking, yeah, this could be fun. And then it finally stopped, and then it flipped over completely. And of course you're in a car, you just wrecked it, you're upside down, you're thinking all kinds of things, fuel, fire, all this good stuff. You hit the seatbelt and realize that gravity sucks at that point.
You land on your neck.
Land on your head and get out of the car. And at Humboldt, when you race down the track, it's an 8th mile track. And then when you shut down, you're actually going downhill at the track. And nobody at the starting line could see that I had wrecked.
I remember sitting in the stands. He was running against a much slower car.
Okay.
And it was still time trials, I think.
It was time trials.
So they weren't staggered start like they are in the eliminations.
And the only reason they knew that it was an incident there is because that car stopped and they could see him stop.
So he locked him up right at the top of the hill.
Right.
And they went down there thinking he had something wrong. And then they went further over the hill, and that's when we realized that it was something else.
So the guy who was running the starting line, he's on a four-wheeler heading down the track, and he saw that Camaro sitting sideways on the top of the hill, and then he got a little bit closer, and then he could see that my car was upside down on the bottom of the hill. And he told me, he says, I went over the top of the hill, and he says, I saw this black thing way up in the air, and it was coming back down. And I realized it was your helmet. When you come out of the car, you were mad, and you threw the helmet.
So, we've all been there.
I remember being like beside myself with tears. Like I was convinced he was dead, right? You know, because I was 9 maybe.
He's in a caged race car. He's fine. They're made for that.
Know. So we cut the roof off of that one and
just put a new one on and called it a day.
And he took it to a paint shop and
it sounded like it was mostly his body. You know, cosmetic damage.
There was one cage on the passenger, or one roll bar on the passenger side, one bar that had bent down a little bit, but we never did anything with it.
The car had a like a funny car containment cage around the driver.
Yeah, like a really good cage.
Yeah, it was offset, not center seat like a funny car is, but it had that containment cage that you see when they have funny cars or over a dragster. It had that over the driver, which I think was
similar to the dragster sitting next to it in the picture.
That was an option that you had elected for, wasn't it?
Right.
That wasn't a standard part on that chassis.
It was not required by the rules, but we put it in.
That chassis was certified to go a lot faster than you ever planned.
There's two certifications on full chassis like that. There's 750 and slower, and then there's faster than 750. And
oh, okay.
Yeah, mine was for the 750 and slower class.
Oh, okay.
But when we got into the juniors, we had one junior for Adam, and then we bought another one for Adam, and then gave the one that Adam had to my daughter Erin. So then both the kids raced, and I devoted my time to the junior dragsters, and I got rid of my car because you just couldn't do both.
No, that'd be never ending.
It was a wild weekend, even with the two juniors, let alone even trying to think about his car.
Yeah. Was there a lot of support for junior dragsters locally, or you guys travel quite a bit? Or this was in Kansas?
Well, no, we were living in Sheldon. We raced in South Dakota at Marion.
Oh, okay.
Well,
okay.
I raced at Humboldt a few years, I guess.
Did you?
Yeah, I think I raced my first year or two in Humboldt.
So I had a friend of mine in Humboldt that had a niece of his that was racing a junior dragster. And Humboldt had a weird thing that year. The points went to the car, not to the driver. And they had one weekend where his niece couldn't make it, and all he had to do to get points was just have the car make rounds.
Just make some passes.
So he asked me if there was any chance that I could get Adam, who was, 9 at the time?
I think I might have been 10 or 11 at that
to
point.
Strap into the car and go down the track. And I just, sure, no problem. Never talked to Adam about this.
I didn't feel the same way.
He was terrified.
It's like a 12-year-old with a dirt bike. Of course he wants to ride it.
No, I didn't want to ride it, though.
So we did the time trial, and he went down the track, and he, stepped on it and launched it, and it scared him a little bit, and he let off and was rolling a ways, and he'd stand on it and just keep, back and forth all the way down the track. Well,
yeah.
The second time he did fine. And then we did time trials. I think he went 2 rounds, and that was enough for the points, and kind of got him hooked, and that's when I started looking for one for him.
Oh, nice.
Where did we buy that thing? Because that thing was weird. It was not like any other chassis.
It was one of the original junior dragsters when the very first year or two that they came out. It was a heavy car.
Super heavy.
And we didn't have much motor on it. But it worked, and everything was, it's...
Are those electric or like Briggs & Stratton type?
So that's a 5-horse Briggs. Like, literally, you pull a motor off a tiller.
Yes.
And you put it on your dragster, and you take it. Like, when you're 8, that's all you're allowed to have is the factory 5-horse Briggs & Stratton. You just start when you're 8.
Yeah, so it's like a closed engine
so
motor
there's,
or whatever.
Well, there's... you can go so fast based on your age.
Okay.
Or slower. Obviously,
Yeah,
because it's bracket racing. So it doesn't matter who's the first person to the end of the track. It only matters who's the best at guessing how quickly they will get there.
Oh,
And
okay.
then whoever's closest to that time without going faster wins.
Gotcha.
So if you have a car that runs 10 seconds and you have a car that runs 9 seconds,
Yep.
or junior, it doesn't make any difference. The 9-second car would have to sit on the line for a full second. The 10-second car would go first for a second. And then the faster car would leave, so they're staggered, and the object is that both of them, in theory, go across the finish line at the same time.
They have separate lights for that?
They have separate
okay.
lights.
So the Christmas tree can stagger.
Okay, cool.
And there's a divider, so you can't really see the other guy's lights when you're actually staged.
That's super helpful.
Yeah. Otherwise, I would have never been able to
No.
do it.
Green, go.
Yeah, I was bad enough.
So what it amounts to is you have 3 amber lights, they're half a second apart, and then a green light. And whoever leaves the closest to the green light and can run closest to their time at the end without going over their time is going to win the round.
Okay.
So-
That's how you kind of try and make it so that any budget can compete.
right.
Like, you don't necessarily have to be the fastest guy. You just have to be the most consistent. And you can go out there with a bone stock PT Cruiser and go rounds and win weekends.
Huh.
Or you can go out there with a high 9-second tube chassis big block Pontiac and not get beat by that PT Cruiser. You don't know. So that's
It's a whole new world.
how
man.
drag racing
Okay.
is. That's how they try. That's kind of like the spec.
balance of performance type thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like trying to make things budget friendly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like Spec Miata was supposed to and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It never works
no,
that way.
it does, that's not how
Doesn't
that
work
works.
that way.
So for the first season or two, we ran that first dragster that we had, and that was a high 11-second eighth
mile.
Junior dragsters run eighth mile,
Yep.
and that was a high 11-second car. Then we bought a Chrome Molly chassis and decked that one out and we still were running the 5-horse Briggs and Stratton motor, but it was a lot more motor in that car. And we put Adam in the faster car, and then my daughter Erin drove the other car. And that's how we went through the rest of the racing seasons with those cars. And the first time that Erin, I took her to a place where we had a stretch of blacktop and got her in the car. And I'm standing on the back of the car, straddling the motor basically on the frame, holding on to the roll cage, and it's this yellow and blue car that we have in the picture here, instructing her how to drive the car.
While driving down the road.
While riding, yeah.
They're not fast.
No,
I mean,
but still.
Well, you went through the 8th mile at what, 82 mile an hour?
I thought it was in the 70s, but it was high 70s at least.
I thought her car was 72 mile an hour and yours was 10 miles faster at 82 mile an hour.
Could have been. I don't remember. It's hard to
It's
say.
still pretty quick for
That's a
young
decent
kids.
especially back then. That was a decent street car,
Yeah.
like a pretty quick street car. But like there was no doing quarter mile with those. They were single speed.
Oh, yeah,
They
top
used,
out.
They
and
used like a
It's a snowmobile clutch.
yeah. It was basically
Yep.
the snowmobile. You know, it was a CVT is what it was.
Yep.
A rubber band slipping on cones is literally what it was.
Yes.
And I mean, I suppose you could change some gearing and maybe make a quarter mile out of it, but it was going to be worse
Right.
because of it.
Way less competitive.
Right. So
What type of budget is that? Like, is it relatively friendly? Is it a great way to get into drag racing, would you say, looking back?
You could get into a car. You can you can buy junior dragsters, used junior dragsters, anywhere from probably $2,500 on. I mean, I was always running the Briggs and Stratton motors, and we were, decking them out with cams and stuff like that. There's all kinds of crazy things you can do to them.
There's
But
billet.
there's companies.
billet motors.
I figured.
There's companies out there that build billet motors, and
I remember,
if that's what you want to do.
daydreaming about
Those
that.
are thousands of dollars type deal.
They were called Blockzilla.
Oh,
It was
geez.
the best.
Well, yeah, of course, but it costs $10,000.
Oh, I dreamed of that though.
So Adam's car was running a 5-horse Briggs and Stratton motor, and it was putting out 17.5 horse.
Nice.
And
I like that.
We ran like full methanol on it.
you're running
It was
alcohol in
stupid.
these things, and of course you're putting a lot of compression to it. And the
Yep.
problem that you have with the Briggs and Stratton motor is you pop the heads off the top.
Right. Does ARP make a head kit for that?
No, this gets a whole lot crazier.
No,
than
it's
that.
way stupider.
So somebody makes a plate that goes underneath the motor, and you bolt the motor to the plate.
Yes.
And then you have a plate that goes on top of the motor. It change the head studs out. Change the head studs out so that so the studs go above the head, and then you put a plate on the top,
Yes.
and then you have bolts going all the way around the top plate and the bottom plate, and
It's like
you
half inch.
sandwich.
It's a sandwich.
You
It's like
s-
half-inch all thread.
you sandwich that Briggs and Stratton motor together.
You just torque that down. It's fine.
and then somebody decided this is crazy, and that's when they come out with the all billet blocks and stuff like that. But yeah,
Which is what's more crazy.
But like, dude, that was in like the early 2000s. Billet motors were not a thing.
No. I say now you can get an SR20 with a
Right.
billet
Like
motor.
billet motors are kind of a thing now.
Yeah.
But like, there were people, back when like, even like twin turbo street cars were pretty wild at that point in time, you
Yes.
know? And here are these single cylinder Briggs and Stratton billet motors.
Well, I think that'd be the place to start with billet, don't you think?
Well,
I
they're
mean,
air cooled. You don't have to figure anything
It'd be
out,
easy.
I guess.
I mean, when you learn, like when you take a shop class, they teach you Briggs and Strattons.
I guess.
So I mean, that's a great place to
was
start.
that like single season motors?
no, I think we got more than a season out of that.
I don't remember.
There was a young man in Sheldon who built. Sheldon at that time was big with the
Go-karts.
go-kart racing, the oval racing and stuff
There's
like
like
that.
a handful of dirt circle track
Yeah, there was dirt
go-kart
circle tracks in the area.
around our home.
and
what
there
was I doing my whole life?
Rollerblading.
There was a young man in that shop that was very, very good at building motors. So I had him build the motors for us, and he really, really enjoyed that because we could do anything we wanted with our 5-horse Briggs,
Yeah.
and the motors that they were running for their track go-karts, they were real specific with what they could do. So we're balls out on this, doing all kinds of stuff. Well, this kid had a dyno in his shop.
An engine dyno.
Yeah.
Not a
for
chassis
the Briggs
dyno.
and Stratton motors. And he'd put the motors on there after we got them, overhauled and stuff, and he'd put them on there, and he'd start running them things up, and he's sitting there at 5,000-6,000 RPM, and this motor sounds to me like it's trying to come apart, and I'm stepping away from the motor a little bit, and he just keeps running the thing up and up and up.
And he's standing like 4 inches away from this.
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Head up into like
Just going at it.
And just smiling from ear to ear because he's getting 15 and 17 horsepower out of this motor, and the motors that they run 10 or 11 horsepower.
that is awesome.
So we ran at the local tracks, and then we also ran down in Topeka at a regional event, which turned into a nightmare because of the weather.
What's that like?
We got like 8 inches of rain that weekend. It was complete
Been
and
there.
utter insanity.
What's with you and Topeka?
We were parked in a really similar spot to
Yeah.
where we were for national time
TT, yeah.
or for Time Trial National Tour. Right. We were really close to where we were
that same
15 years earlier when I was there with the juniors, right along the front straight of the racetrack.
Yeah.
Because that's the drag strip.
Yep.
And, dude, it poured, and our camper was stuck.
Oh.
Like,
I suppose it wasn't paved at that point. Or was it?
Were we on pavement?
We were in a green space that was all fenced off, and they put all the juniors in there because that way, you got kids running around, and this was a regional event where they had.
Yeah, there were lots of other cars
there were cars there and stuff, and we were in this area here where if you let your kids run around, you didn't have to worry about them running out in front of somebody in the pits.
Makes sense.
And it rained 8 inches, and it rained like 4 inches in an hour type stuff. It just poured.
That's when we found out our RV leaked.
And it's never leaked before, and it never leaked after. But that weekend, it just had enough.
I remember, he went and somebody took him to, some Fleet Farm thing, and he bought, the biggest tarps we could find, and we tried to strap him down over the roof of the RV, and, yeah.
Yeah, and we ended up having some guy with a 4-wheel drive. He pulled the camper out first because you're making ruts 6 inches deep with a camper.
Yep.
And then he went back in and hooked onto the trailer and pulled it out, or we'd have never got out of there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that weekend was a complete wash. It was a horrible weekend. In fact, it was. Adam's mother says it was one of the worst weekends of her life.
Did you get on track at all?
Yeah, we made it down the track.
Yeah, but I don't remember what happened, but my car just didn't run right, and I ran seconds off pace, and we were out first round.
Oh.
I
Yeah,
remember
sucks.
that much.
The best race that we had with Adam, there's a track just on the Minnesota side of Fargo, North Dakota. I can't remember what the name of the
Top
town
End
is.
Dragway.
Okay.
It's the one with the drift track on it now.
Ah.
Yeah.
Fun.
So the kids had assignments on the race car. We're running alcohol in these junior dragsters, so you had to change the oil every week because you milk the oil so bad.
Right.
And we're at this. It's a junior dragster event only, and there must have been 200 junior dragsters there. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was fun.
And I'm standing behind on the staging lanes, and Adam does his little burnouts, and he pulls up pre-stages and then stages, and then the light starts coming down every half second at a different amber to green. And that first amber came on, and I'm looking at the back of his car, and the drain plug on the back of the motor falls and hits the ground. And the next thing I know, it's down the track he's going.
Too late to even stop him.
And yeah, you couldn't do a thing about it. And what you did is you had a golf cart and you pulled the juniors back when they were done. And he knew when he got to the end of the track and got to the stage, when he got to the return road, then he just shut it off and wait for us.
Yeah.
So we got up there with the golf cart. I go up on the line and I pick up his drain plug and go back to the golf cart and then go get him and pull his car back. And I'm a little upset with him because the drain plug was loose. We put the drain plug back in it, and we put oil in it, and we go to the second round.
So did they have to stop the whole event because you just
full synthetic?
You know what? That's such a little hole on an event like that with the junior dragsters. They really didn't care.
No, dude. You didn't spin those tires. You weren't worried about traction.
Well, I mean, did you was it a quarter of a gallon? Just
No, dude. They use a quart. Maybe.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
You put like a quart of oil in it and you're done.
what are you running in that? Does Valvoline
He ran
VR
like really expensive
like VR1?
full synthetic.
The kid who built the motor, he sold us oil for the motor, and it was full synthetic oil, and that's what sold me on synthetic oil way back when.
Gotcha.
There's such little amounts that it was like,
Well,
fine,
yeah,
whatever. We'll
it could
spend
be the
a
most
little
expensive
money
oil.
on it.
You're just putting a quart in.
Yeah. So who cares? Type of deal.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if Briggs Strat came out with a race oil.
I don't know. That's probably what it was. I don't know. But there was. So that was like just a full Junior Dragster weekend, right?
Yes.
And I don't know how it all. He probably remembers somewhat, but I don't remember exactly how it all came together. But they ended up doing like a eliminations run for money,
Oh,
like a separate thing from the main event of the weekend, and I won that.
nice.
It's the only time I ever do any good was when there was money on the line, because I think there were one or two of those times, and I did well in all of them.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. You got to win
Yeah.
when there's money on the line. Who cares
Yeah.
if there's no money?
I remember I don't remember where it all was. The only things I really remember ever winning, if you will, with the Junior Dragsters, the money, which I don't remember how much it was. It was probably an insignificant amount.
It was $200.
Oh, all right, well, that's
Still something.
probably paid for the weekend.
$200 when you're 14 years old. I mean, hey.
That goes a long way.
I probably didn't see a penny of it, let's be real.
They bought a pair of skates.
Nah, you probably kept it. It's probably like, this is for dropping your drain plug on the ground or some shit like that. And I never
and
saw
he
it
would
yet.
be right.
I probably couldn't have argued with him. But then I remember getting a connecting rod out of a funny car that Del Worsham had autographed. And then I'm pretty sure that there was a set of like 3/8 ratchet extensions
Yep.
that he still has that I won.
Those came from Topeka.
But I'm pretty sure I won them.
And I don't know if it was you or Aaron, but yes, I kept them.
He's the one wrenching.
I guess. I probably used them at his place.
Countless times.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So probably use them at his place more than I would at mine anyway.
Besides, you can't even find your garage right now, much less your tools.
I know exactly where it is. It hasn't moved any. It's just that I can't get to it. So
My son grew up in drag racing and in Pontiacs, and
Yeah,
And all
I
this
saved
good
pictures.
stuff.
I saved pictures just for this, so that when you brought it,
no.
so now his choice of racing in life, when he does race, is whatever this is, road course racing,
Not-
with a Dodge Omni.
that kills.
I'm so proud.
I just want everybody to know that any time that I talk about selling it, he's the one who tells me not to.
There's too much history with that car for you to sell it.
I get that.
It's too cool.
Actually, like when I was scrolling through saving pictures for this episode, I was like basically diving deep into both of your Facebook pages. Didn't take long on yours. It was
No.
three pictures. But yours, I got to like 2013 when you bought it. And I'm going through all those pictures like, dang, he's had this car forever.
I've had it for a long time. It's been a while. I might be coming up on being like the longest I've ever owned a car.
Yeah, I would bet so.
I don't know how long I
You
have.
have nothing that'd be anywhere close to this as far as owning a car.
2013, man. That's
The blue Audi I had for quite a while.
Not
I don't remember how long I owned it.
7 years? No.
No, probably not.
at most 7. Because yeah, I had it when I was in college, and then got rid
Yeah.
of it right before I graduated. So you would have had it probably
I think I had it for 5.
5 or 6,
5 or
at
6.
the most.
It wasn't paid off very long before I got rid of it. I remember that much.
Yeah, that thing was mean to you.
Oh, so mean. It was mean to both of us.
It wasn't so mean to me.
No, to him, too.
Oh, yeah. Well,
He had to come pick me up more than once with it.
with his Pontiac.
No, with his Chevy.
With a truck and trailer.
With a truck and trailer.
You mean a knight in shining armor and his Chevy come to
Yes.
save you?
Yes.
Picking up a theme here.
I think I only ended up on a trailer once.
What happened?
I
What'd you do
I
with the
was
Audi?
thinking twice, but I don't remember the second time. One time you were over.
I
the
lost
hills over
the
there.
yeah, and I lost the crank pulley. Remember that? The crank
Yeah.
pulley spun off.
Was
no
it
idea.
Was it a Kia?
Dude,
It's the only other car I've ever heard of that
So
happen.
there's just 4 bolts that bolt the pulley that runs all the accessory to
Yep.
the crank, right?
Yep.
And it just went
Gone.
gone.
Weird.
There were one bolt was gone,
Yeah.
and the other 3 were sheared.
Good grief.
Yeah, somebody had been in that motor before and didn't get something tight or something.
Me, I probably didn't get it tight enough, apparently, after I put a timing belt in it. But that was like 10,000 miles down the road. I figured I would have had trouble. I mean, I'll admit it was my fault, fine, whatever, but that was totes my fault.
It happens.
But he had to come pick me up for that.
Oh, and I just realized that you're really bad with drain plugs. Because you had your Cavalier that you ruined.
I didn't ruin the Cavalier.
You ruined the drain plug.
No, I didn't.
What vehicle was that?
The Montego.
The Montego, where you cross-threaded the drain plug.
Yeah, but in all fairness, that era of drain plug and Fords, that was common because when I worked in the station back in the late 70s and we had trouble, you could buy oversized drain plugs to put in those things because they stripped out and stuff.
Oh, man.
So
didn't you just like...
But yours already had the oversized drain plug in it, and you couldn't get any bigger.
Oh, shoot.
So we ended up welding a nut on it, and then just put a bolt in it, and then you could drain it that way.
Welded a nut to the backside?
Welded a nut to the outside.
Oh, and then just threaded the bolt all the way.
And
hey, if it works, it works.
So we're welding this
awesome.
nut on there, and there's enough fuel emissions inside the crankcase that it burped one time, just went woo. Well, that was kind of exciting.
That was an interesting.
No more eyebrows.
That was inside the motor. I mean, nothing happened.
Oh, I thought it was whoosh out.
No. That was a weird car.
Huh.
That was a beast
That was
of a vehicle.
his mother's grandmother's car.
It was my great-grandma's.
Oh, wow.
It was my first car. A 70 Mercury Montego 4-door. It's huge. Big as they come.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. So, we talked about it a little bit last week, and I don't know enough about it, and I think they're interesting. So let's talk about the Oakland. Because I remember you had one. Or I know you had. I don't remember it. I know you had one. How do you come across... What was it, first of all?
It was a 60 or a 50... It was a 1927 Oakland Coupe.
And how do you come across something like that? Because you're the muscle car, drag racing guy.
Actually,
That was pretty much in
I
the
don't
heights
remember
of
exactly how it was. I had a 67 Firebird for sale. And somebody wanted the Firebird. And he had a boat for sale. And the guy who had the Oakland wanted the boat. So we ended up trading the Firebird and the boat, and then I ended up with the Oakland when it was all said and done.
Okay.
And we drove that for one summer, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it because you could only go about 40 mile an hour.
Oh, that's way more than I would have said.
And they're a nightmare to start unless everything's just right because it's an updraft carburetor.
Did you crank it?
There was a crank, but I never had to crank it.
So it had electric start.
It had a starter.
Ooh, it's uptown.
Fancy.
And it was all restored, and it was all original, and it was a very nice car, but it just wasn't my thing.
Nothing for you.
And I'm still involved with the Pontiac Club, but I was involved with the Pontiac Club down there in Kansas, and a good friend of mine from down there in Kansas, his wife was born the same year that Oakland was built.
Oh,
and they had to have it, and they talked to me about it, and they wanted it, and we called them up, and this is what I want for it, and well, that's more than we wanted to pay, but okay. And it went away.
So that was all like standard drive configuration, right?
Yeah.
Manual?
4-speed manual.
Synchronized?
First wasn't, but I think the rest might have been. Yeah, that.
Okay.
And yes, you had a crank that you could use.
A 6-cylinder?
4-cylinder.
4-cylinder?
6-cylinder? A 6-cylinder. You're right. It was a 6-cylinder.
So did that have rubber hosing, or was that like brass tubing like I thought it might be?
No, it's not a brass era car. I mean, it's conventional hoses.
It's new enough for that,
yeah.
at least.
But, with that updraft carburetor.
Does it literally sucks from the bottom?
The carburetor is underneath the intake.
Oh, weird.
And the vacuum from the motor pulls the fuel through the carburetor and up through the intake and into the cylinders.
Huh.
Gee, I wonder why that didn't work well.
That didn't catch on?
all the cars in that era had that, or a lot of them did. And like tractor technology, they did that all the way up through the 60s with gas engines. And when you have everything
Really?
right, it works.
Yep.
But yeah,
So is that like a flathead type of deal?
that was a flathead. Yeah.
Okay. Those are very strange.
Yeah. I know nothing about those.
Yeah, I don't really either. The generally the valves are next to the cylinder essentially.
The valves are alongside the cylinder, yes. And then the head has a port in it so that the valves can,
And so the valves are in the block.
yes.
Okay.
Huh.
Super weird. But did that have like Siamese ports on it and stuff like that?
I've never been inside the motors. I don't remember.
Didn't remember that. I know that like some of the older Ford flatheads and stuff like that, they'll have like a flathead V8. Will have 3
Right.
exhaust ports on it
Oh, weird.
because the Sun or 2 are Siamese.
Yep.
And I'm sure that flows fantastic.
I'm sure.
They just make tons of horsepower
Yeah, it's
with
great.
those. That's why they're so popular still.
Well, and Oakland
So-
was pre-Pontiac. A year or two after that, then Oakland went away completely because
Right.
there was a few years there where you could buy an Oakland or a Pontiac. You could go either direction, and then the Oakland went away, and Pontiac just kept going from there.
What a weird thing to end up with.
Yeah. I never would have guessed he would have this vehicle.
Somehow,
Or something like it.
Somehow, somewhere along the line, he had either a 240 or a 280Z.
No, I had a Fair Lady, late '60s Fair Lady.
Okay, so it was even older than a 240.
They
He's
they
got
were a
great
2-seater
taste.
convertible.
They're
but
so
no,
good.
it gets worse.
No, it doesn't get
so
worse.
he had this thing.
I bought 2 of them.
He bought 2 of
I
them.
bought 2 of them, and I put them in. Back then, you put things in the newspaper for sale, and
Yes.
I put the for sale. Datsun Fair Ladies. They were like '68 or '69 models. One of them was wrecked. One of them was decent body, but no, the drivetrain was bad or something like that. You had to have both cars to make one. So I got this ad in the newspaper. Hey, I got these cars for sale, and this guy calls me up out of the blue. And you have those 2 Fair Ladies? Yes, I do. Would you be interested in another one? Well, I'm trying to sell this one or these. Yeah, but if you come and get this, you can have it.
Then yeah, I want it.
So he ended up with 3 of them.
So now I ended up with 3 of them.
I
and put 'em-
love those cars.
That's not it.
That's
It's
not
earlier
it.
than that.
It's earlier than this one. Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Not important.
It looks kind of like a little Triumph convertible.
I think it was like a 2000.
No, it was not a GT2000.
No. That's a Toyota, Robbie. It's a different thing entirely. I don't know. He's had
Oh, here we go.
He's had all kinds of weird
It's a Datsun
stuff.
2000. So good.
Get a picture, Robbie?
It looks like a Triumph.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
He had 3 of them dang things.
We could all take them racing together.
Yeah, it would have been great,
That
wouldn't
would-
it?
That would be perfect. That would make me so happy.
He's got some Nissan blood in him, I guess.
This one's got wheels similar to your Omni.
I wish. Those were the ones I really wanted but couldn't afford.
I believe that. They look fancy.
Yeah, they're expensive.
And we thought about fixing them because they're cute little cars.
Super
Little-
cool.
Little
Super fun.
4-cylinder, 4 speeds.
Mom's always had a convertible. That would have been great for her.
But I was building drag cars. I needed money.
Yeah, that's not really a drag car.
Yeah, like
That's a little road car.
So when I built my race car when I was racing in the 80s, of course, being a Pontiac nut and being a Firebird nut, back then you could go and find a 67 or 68 Firebird in somebody's backyard, and you had a $100 bill in your back pocket, and you go talk to them. Well, we want $300 for it. Well, I got $100 cash here, sold, and you'd buy these cars. And your mom and I figured it out in a 2-year span. I parted out, I think, 55, 67, 68, or 69 Firebirds.
so ridiculous.
Well, back then you could sell the doors, you could sell the hoods, you
Right.
could sell the fenders.
'Cause people need
now
it.
they reproduce all that stuff. You
Right.
can't
Why
sell
would you?
anything. But
Yeah.
so that paid for a lot of my toys.
I just wish that was still a thing.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I've done that
'Cause,
kind of
like,
with
if-
eBay and stuff,
You
but
know,
it's
when
not the
when
same.
we were when I was really little, we were either at the drag strip or we were at a swap meet. He was either spending the money or making the money. That was kind of
it's
how
perfect
it
how
worked.
that system works.
You've talked about talking to different places
Yeah,
like in
I
Des
have
Moines
more than once.
and trying to get so that your generation can bring their cars and parts there. Because I understand you can sell things on eBay or Marketplace or something like that, but the interaction that you get in a swap meet, if you guys got it set up where you had your Nissan parts there and your Mazda parts there and stuff like that, the stuff that's interested in your buyer group, it's a good time. Well, and Adam, you've been to
I love it.
50
it's
swap
one of my
meets.
favorite things.
Yeah. And I know that the swap meets are muscle car, stock car, drag car type items, but
I think so. I've noticed, we're talking to a bunch of people. A couple of different friends have been buying stuff lately. A couple of different friends have been selling stuff lately. Everybody's fed up with it. It's a huge hassle.
You talking about swap meets?
No, buying stuff through Marketplace or through Craigslist.
Selling things is even worse because you'll post it.
Right, selling stuff.
Yeah,
especially.
so like, for example, I got that limited slip out of the 240 that I replaced with the 350Z limited slip.
Right.
So I have it on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist for like $125, which I think is a pretty fair price.
Right.
But like, you'll get people that text you like, "I'll give you $50."
I'll
keep it for $50.
Hey man, I don't have any cash, but I got an Xbox 360 and like 12 games that I haven't touched in 6 years. I'll give it to you. Shit like that.
I saw one.
But you just take that and you take all the other crap you don't need and you take it to a swap meet and someone goes, "I'll give you $100 for it." Yeah, sure, whatever. Here,
Yeah,
and they walk away with it.
Yes.
It's gone.
Yes.
Well, I genuinely think that it's getting to the point where I know lots of people who are just so fed up with Marketplace and trying to sell stuff because people suck that they're just like, "I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just going to throw it away."
I have seen that, where people threw away good parts because they didn't want to deal with it.
I think we're at a point where I think I could sway a lot of people into agreeing that swap meets are cool again.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to deal with so much bullshit.
I did see an awesome interaction between someone on Craigslist the other day.
Okay.
They're selling something, and the guy asked who was in for trades. And he goes, "Well, maybe." And then he sends him a picture of a 10-foot alligator. He's like, "You could have this." He had a pet alligator that he was trying to get rid of.
Yeah, but I don't know what he was selling. I'm not buying though. I don't need that.
Probably happened in Florida.
Well, I mean, where else?
Yeah. But no, I'm in on the swap meets. I got a bunch of parts I'm trying to get rid of.
One of these days I need to just send the Des Moines Swap Meet Facebook page a message and be like, "Hey,
let's all meet up.
This is who I am. This is my idea. Let's talk about it."
I got a big yard. Let's all hang out.
Well, I just think at the Des Moines Swap Meet, let's get a group of 10 booths that are right next to each other, and we'll sell those out. And if I need more, whatever. But I realize that we could just go to the swap meet. We could just be a part of it.
Yep.
But I think in order to get people to come around to the idea of being involved, we need to give them a space where they are together,
right,
and advertise it as such.
Yeah, I think so.
So that people are like, "You know what, this doesn't sound like such a bad idea. It might be kind of fun. I don't have anything going on that Saturday. Let's," I remember when how many years were you in Wichita?
Let's see, I was in Wichita 1985 till 2014?
Yeah, probably. He had a booth in the same swap meet for that entire stretch of time. And
people knew to come back.
There were a few years, where like he might not have enough to fill a booth, so one of his other friends would come in and
right.
There was a group of 6 of us in the same area, so if I didn't make it this year,
right,
then vendor B, well, I got extra stuff this year, I'll just sell out of your booth.
Right. And that might be what some of these people have to do to fill a booth space. Split it with your buddies.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is that when you have multiple people selling out of the same booth, as long as you mark everything on what you're willing to, or on what you want for it,
yep,
you can go walk around and look while your buddy's manning the booth.
I'm surprised this isn't more popular at the drift events.
I just
because
think
they break stuff all the time.
Somebody needs to be the
guy that has the trailer of stuff.
And I just need to find the time.
So everybody who's listening to this podcast, you need to start harassing Adam to get going on this.
I don't have time.
I like this guy.
I don't have time.
He gets it.
And the other thing you need to remind people if they start coming to the swap meets to look at things, this is a cash deal. Leave your debit card someplace else.
That swap meet's fine. I'll give you that.
At least you got the apps now.
Yeah,
The
but
cash apps. You don't do any of those?
I don't want to deal with that at a swap meet.
Oh god. It's 2020. You can't do anything with cash.
Watch me.
Oh man. I have cash in my wallet right now. I don't know what to do with it.
It's free money, Robbie.
You know who knows about this? Not my bank
Not
account.
your bank account?
That's who. That only works if I'm buying things off Craigslist, though.
Or a meal at Wendy's.
No, then I have to carry change.
That's
the worst.
my 3-year-old loves change, though.
Yes, but it's a hindrance to me.
I give him change, and he goes and he puts it in his Lightning McQueen thing, and then every once in a while he decides he wants to cash it all in, so we got to go to a Coinstar, and then he can buy a toy.
I like it.
See, I'm teaching him valuable life lessons.
Or if you're like me, you just hang on to it and get a big bag of it, and then you forget to bring cash at a toll, and you just pay it on coins like an asshole.
So years ago, as a swap meet down in Wichita, and this was an indoor swap meet. It was in February, and I had a old tri-power intake. It's a 3.2 barrel intake for a 66 GTO,
Yeah.
and it was just intake only. It was bare. And this is back in the late 80s. These weren't worth anything at the time. I mean, now
they're big money.
The
Yeah,
last tri-power intake that I bought, of course, it was complete carburetors and everything. I paid $1,700 for it.
Ooh.
But so I had this tri-power intake there, and it was marked $50. And all it was, like I said, it's just a bare intake.
Right.
And this gentleman came and looked at it, and then he went away. Then he came and looked at it an hour later, and he's talked to me then about it.
Yeah.
And then he went away. Then he came and looked at it again and went away. And then the last time he came and looked at it, he starts talking to me. You got that marked at $50. Yep. Will you take less for it? Well, what are you offering? And right about then, another guy walked up behind him and listening to this whole conversation. And this guy and I, we haggle back and forth on this $50 intake. And I agree to let him have it for $35.
Okay.
And he's looking it all over and everything, and he sets it down on the table, and I don't know what I want to do. And that guy behind me handed across over the guy's shoulder, handed me a $50 bill, picked up the intake, and walked away. It was
Genius.
phenomenal.
Genius. That's the way to do it.
Swap meets are the best. I remember we used to set up. We would bring the RV and the enclosed trailer that we had, right?
Yep.
And you'd set that up long ways in the booth or booths in some of these circumstances, and then you set up all the tables in front of that stuff. And then me and Dad and a couple of Dad's friends would all go down there and we'd just stay in the RV. And in the morning they would make breakfast in the RV. Dude, it was so much fun. It was the best.
There are some multiple swap meets out there, multiple day swap meets out there for you guys to get started in. And I really think you should, because it's a lot of fun to talk to people who have like interests.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
You can have a lot of good conversations.
Yeah.
It's a good place to meet people. It's just it's something to do. But, these one-day events like you have, in May in Des Moines or something like that.
Yeah.
I think you could work with the people that I think they'd love to have you if given the chance.
Too.
They don't know how to deal with some of the stuff you have because they're probably my age type people.
Right, and that's why I think
circle track or muscle cars or something like that.
That's why I think if I reach out to them and I tell them, this is who I am.
And this is what I want. It's going to take the media that you guys are so familiar with to get some people there to actually do this.
Right.
So, I think it'd be a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
So 1010's podcasters, Adam Nielsen.
He's been talking about it for years.
I have been. I think it was even on my bucket list.
I think it was. We need to go back and revisit that.
Yeah, probably.
Time to update that.
One of these days.
You need to start knocking them off, man. Start adding some more crazier ones.
I don't know. What else? What else you got, Robbie?
You still drag racing?
Yes, there's a local track that just opened up 2 years ago near where I live now. It's an 8th-mile track, and I'd been out of racing for years because where we lived was just several hours to get to a drag strip, and it's not fun.
I get that.
And
so get that.
And Robbie, you probably understand this as much as anybody. When you're going to the track alone all the time, which I would have been doing in where I'm living at, it's not a lot of fun. But now we got this track close to us, and I know people there, so I bought a little It's a 32 Bantam altered, and it's short. It is only like 14 foot long. It's just a motor, transmission, rear end, and a body and a cage. But it's a hoot. It has no electronics in it. There's no, all the stuff that people can use for drag racing and stuff. I got none of that.
Good. I love it.
It's one of the
It's my favorite.
Like he didn't. The Tempest had like a delay box and a trans brake and all these fancy electronics, and like this one he has to foot brake and
Yes.
stuff like that, and like he had to relearn it all,
That's awesome.
That's
fun.
So isn't this the first car you've had that you actually like do a rolling burnout?
Yeah, you don't have any front brakes on this car, so when you do your burnout, you roll through the water box and then roll past the water box a little bit, and then you just stand on it, and the tires start spinning, and then all of a sudden they bite, because once they get warm and the water's off it, then they bite, and it launches you across the starting line. So then you have to back up. Most cars, they set their front brakes with a line lock and do their burnouts, and then once the tires are good and hot and it's smoky, then they let go of the line lock and do a burnout up to the line.
Yep.
Where with this car with no front brakes, I have to go across the line and then back up.
Which he's never had to do before.
Right. So, silly question for someone that's never done it. How do you know when your tires are heated up enough on a burnout?
On this car, when you do the burnout, when you got a wet tire, it sits there and spins.
Correct.
And once it dries out, which it does very, very fast, then all of a sudden it hooks and it's gone.
So as soon as you start to feel it moving forward, then you know, I got grip. It's time to race.
And, the drag cars where you're just rolling forward and stuff like that, it's just... Well, last week I, brought it to 5,000 RPM for 5 seconds and then rolled forward and it hooked. I mean...
Okay.
That seems like enough smoke in my car. We'll call that good.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is for a lot of them. The fans probably enjoyed that enough. Let's move forward before I need to buy a new set of slicks.
I figured it was something as simple as that. I've just never really thought about it.
The truth of the matter is the burnouts and the launch and everything else don't matter. That's the only thing that's fun.
That's what he's always said. Doing the burnout and the launch, the rest of it's just circumstance.
Yeah.
So when I had the other drag car, which I don't have this right now, I had what's called a trans brake.
Yep.
And there's a little button on the steering wheel, and you do your burnout, and you pull up to the line, and you put your finger on the button on the steering wheel, and it locks your transmission in reverse and low gear at the same time.
Okay.
And then you mat the gas pedal. And then whatever your torque converter is, if you have a 3500 stall or a 4500 or a 5500 stall, let's say you have a 4500 stall converter, as long as you get your finger on the button and you mat it, your motor's going to sit there at 4500 RPM. And then as the Christmas tree comes down, you let go of that button, and it launches now. Because now you're launching an automatic car at 5,000 RPM.
Awesome.
So it's like really rudimentary launch control.
Yeah.
So that's the original launch control.
I've never done a launch controlled launch.
I don't know that I have either. I never got to make a... So he had a passenger seat in the Tempest.
Yep.
And it had belts, but I never got to make a pass in it.
Most tracks won't let passengers go down the track.
Yeah, but
you'd have to do it on a back road somewhere.
Yeah, but we went to a couple of tracks that would have let you.
I'm not real sure that Humboldt would have had a problem with it.
Yeah, there's no
back
way
in the
they
day.
would have had a problem with it. But I don't know that I've ever done like an actual launch controlled launch either. I don't think I have. So it looks like fun.
I'd try it. Yeah, I'm up.
So somewhere down the road, I think Adam needs to show up, and we'll put him in my little roadster and let him go down the track with that.
I love this. That's on my bucket list, is to have him do that.
Oh, I see how it is.
Yes, that's my
I'm
bucket
gonna put
list.
you
item.
in it.
I would love to.
We'll go to a test and tune, and I'll put you in it.
I'll pay. I don't care. That sounds awesome.
It would be fun, and that thing will run. We can run circles all day long with that thing.
We're talking about the
Yeah.
Okay. What car? What car is that?
It was based on a Bantam.
Okay. So we can just call it the Bantam. So I know what we're talking about.
If you looked at a Bantam,
Yep.
you would be like, where is Bantam in that?
You can maybe see it in the rear.
We just were at a car show here 2 weeks ago, and they had an all-original 41 Bantam, which it's the same body.
The one in Sioux Falls?
Yeah.
Really?
And that Bantam, an original Bantam, ain't much bigger than this table. It's
dude.
crazy.
You would never guess that that's where they came from.
They just
Like it
stretched
just,
it out.
it's a pretty radical. But it's like for the longest time, I didn't know what a Fiat Topolino looked like. I know what it looks like as a fuel altered, but I don't know what it actually looked like until somewhat recently.
Well, back in the day, the drag racers would find the smallest, lightest cars they could and put
Cut the nose off.
cut the
bring
nose
it out
off and
18
Yeah.
inches.
and add motor to it and go down the track, and that kind of caught on. And the one that I have, I mean, it's just a fiberglass body. It's not an actual Bantam, but you can buy these open cockpit cars. You can get a 27. I know they make a 27T car that you can make a roadster race car out of, and I mean, there's a few others.
The 40 Willies.
The 40 Willies and the Ford Anglias and the stuff
Anglias.
like that. They were real small, lightweight, compact cars back in the 30s and 40s when they were built, and drag racers loved them because you could put a motor in the front, and you had a car that weighed, with a motor in it, 2,200 pounds or whatever, and you go racing. And that's what kind of morphed into the gassers and stuff like that. But that's just,
So in his Bantam, you're just in front of the rear end, right?
I'm in front of the rear end, yes.
But just.
So the rear end is like right in front of your feet or right below?
No, it's right behind your butt.
Okay. Sorry,
You're just barely in
I
front of
misunderstood
it.
what you were saying. Okay.
So I looked at a car years ago, or you look at a early front engine dragster. In fact, I even helped build one for a customer years ago. When you sit in them,
Yep.
you sit your butt down, and the pumpkin is right by your junk,
Yeah.
and your legs are going up over the axle.
You got to have your
tubes.
knees bent to get up and over.
Yep, I've seen those pictures.
Yeah, we
That's-
kind of talked about it a little
That's
bit
a
last
special
year.
kind of crazy.
It seems like it, but have you ever seen one come apart?
Those cars are so light, and you got everything so heavy duty inside there and stuff. I've never heard of any of those coming apart. Now, I have heard years ago, because they used to run some of those with a clutch, and I have heard of
That's scary.
clutch
clutch
pieces
disc come
flying,
apart.
and in fact, a very famous drag racer, Don Garlitz, years and years and years ago, had a front engine. Was that a front engine dragster? And I think that was an automatic, but the flywheel area shattered, and it cut that car in half.
Did it cut somebody's arm off or some crazy thing?
I think he lost part of a foot on that. As
I know that
recall.
there was a spectator that got seriously injured in it.
Oh, easy.
And then Don Garlitz ended up going and finding this guy and making friends with him and put him on his pit crew for a couple of races or some crazy thing.
Huh.
He talks about it in his Dinner with Racers interview.
Awesome.
So
I've seen that with the drifters where the flywheels will go through the bell housing or
a lot of times it comes out through the passenger seat because that's
the way it spins.
I was at a drag race in Kansas years ago, and this was an original or in a stock class. They have different classes depending how fast you go, and it was either a high school class or it was just basically their stock class. And the kid had a 69 or 70 Mustang, I don't remember exactly, and he was a stick, and he did the burnout and rolled up to the staging, and he launched. And when he launched, the flywheel shattered.
Oh my god!
And it took the master cylinder off the firewall and come through the hood and scattered all kinds of shrapnel into the stands, but nobody actually got hurt from it.
Wow.
Man, that's
Lucky.
scary.
So yeah,
That's why they make scatter shields.
Yep, SFI rated scatter shields.
Yeah.
So on your I already forgot the name.
Bantam.
We just called it the
I was
altered.
going to say Banshee. I knew that was wrong.
We call it the
Bantam.
altered.
Yeah, it's an altered.
So it says 6.86 on the front. So
That's in the 8th mile.
so that's what you're trying to
That's
match.
his dial-in.
Okay,
That's
his
my dial-in.
goal.
gotcha.
That means I say it can make the 8th mile in 6.86 seconds.
And so if you do it in
If I do it-
6.85,
If I do it in 6.85,
That's bad.
I'm out. That's too fast.
It's too fast.
8.7.
Yeah,
it's all
that's
right.
good.
Go in the
That's
other
fine.
direction.
Yeah, that's fine. You can't go too fast, though.
Okay.
So the other part about that is that from the time the light turns green
Yep.
to the time you cross the finish line is the time that's being measured.
Right.
Not necessarily the time you're going.
Right.
So the light turns green and you sit there for half a second, and the other guy that you're racing, the light turned green and he sat there for a tenth of a second.
Yep.
He's already 4/10 ahead of you.
He's 4/10 ahead of you.
Right.
So
And
That's the hard part.
Yeah, so your reaction time comes down
and
to
if
it.
you react too fast, the tree will automatically sense that you reacted too fast, and it'll give you a red light, and
Then you're done. And then the other guy wins, even if his motor blows up.
Yep.
Because Dad's done that.
I think I've seen that before where the let's say driver on the right screwed up, the driver on the left had his engine blow up, but then so the driver on the left got moved to the next round, but then he can't do it.
He did that. He did that in Amarillo with the Tempest.
I did that in Ennis, Texas.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's some Pontiac race or something like that we were down there for.
So is
The
that
guy that I was racing, he red lit, and I blew up at the 60 foot.
Scattered motor all the way down the track.
No, I didn't go all the way down the track, but drag racer courtesy, if you have a motor or transmission that scatters, instead of going down the middle of the track, you
Get
immediately
offline.
go off to the one side or the other.
Yep.
So that you're not oiling where everybody
That's
wants to drive.
General racing.
Yeah, road
courtesy,
racing's that way,
honestly.
too.
That's
I know.
highly encouraged in driver meetings and whatnot.
Yep.
So-
Yeah, Adam goes over it at Grid Life pretty well.
Well, it's because they have a lot
'Cause
of
they do it all the time.
scatter.
That really isn't an
Them
issue.
damn time attack
Yeah,
kids.
so we haven't had that too much of an issue yet,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah, I basically copy his driver meetings.
that's probably fair. So we've talked about this a couple of times on the show, like having the car that got away.
Ooh.
Okay.
And we always talk about when we're older, we're going to regret having sold something because now it's worth crazy money, or it's super rare, or it's
Sentimental.
whatever. What is the car that got away for you that if you would still have, you'd be sitting on my inheritance?
The one that this kid made you sell.
Hey,
not,
whoa!
Not directly,
Hey,
but
whoa!
it's his.
I don't
it's
think I've
his
ever
fault.
been the fault of selling anything.
I never had any cars that were just the ultra rare cars, but I've owned 3 70 Chevelle Super Sports, which are fair market value today.
Yeah, pretty up there.
I've owned
I'll never
3
keep up.
65 GTOs, several 66 GTOs. Of all the cars that I have that have the biggest value, the one that I'm restoring right now, that 70 Trans Am, is probably.
Right.
Now, I've had cars that I sold that I wish I had, not because they were worth so much back then, just because
Like the El Camino
I had a 67 El Camino that I should not have sold.
or the 59.
The 59 El Camino got wrecked. Yeah, I probably should have kept that one too.
I love those things.
Yeah.
Because not only is it an El Camino.
Yes.
And it's basically a small pickup truck.
Yes.
Which I love.
I understand.
The 59s had wings, Robbie.
All right, hold on.
They had wings, Robbie. Like the Cadillacs. So it doesn't get any better than a 59 El Camino.
Well,
in my
and
book.
you go look at hot rods, custom cars, so on and so forth.
Right.
There's an alarming amount of cars that have the 59 and 60 dash is pretty much identical to each other. There are a lot of cars out there that have that 59 and 60 dash grafted into them.
God damn, Robbie, look at that.
I know.
I loved the 59 El Camino.
I get it.
It's so good.
It is good. You could have had one just
he
waiting
crashed
in a
one.
garage.
No, I didn't crash it. I'm not going to go there.
I know the story. It's for off the podcast. It's fine. But that, like, of the cars that I know, that's
that's
I
the
got.
one.
Or his blue 67 Firebird.
The one you remember was 68.
Okay. I don't know why.
The headlights were slightly
That was
different.
like the first car that I was sentimentally attached to or emotionally attached to as
Yep.
a child. I don't know.
You didn't like the 54 that I had?
The Star Chief?
Yeah.
No. That was way after the
Oh, yeah.
fire. He had a 54 Pontiac Star Chief, which had an inline V8.
Straight 8.
Or sorry, an inline 8.
Yeah.
Not a V.
Right. Straight in.
So it's got 8 cylinders, but they're in a line.
So it's freaking like the longest nose in the world.
Yeah, it was huge. And did it have power steering?
I would.
I
hope
remember
so.
it having just like the biggest steering wheel in the world.
Yeah, I don't think it had power
You're out
steering.
here like this.
Once you're rolling, it was
like a
fine.
bus,
but
right?
yeah.
You're like driving down the road like this,
That's hilarious.
and that
There was more chrome on the front bumper on that, or not the front bumper, in the front grille of that thing than there is in 20 of any new cars that are made today.
so much chrome, so good. The Indian head on the center of the hood
Yep.
at the top. If it's an illuminated one, then
Yep.
it was the 8-cylinder, right?
Right.
And if it's just a chrome one, then it's the 6-cylinder.
Illuminated like just a yellow light.
So it's an
It was-
amber.
it was an amber light
It looks
inside
like
there.
kind of like a turn signal on it.
Yeah.
But it's just an amber light.
Yeah, I was like, that's what this one looks like.
Yep. So that's an 8-cylinder.
Yeah, you see the
See how it's
orange.
amber
Yep.
there?
Yep.
Yep. So that's an 8-cylinder.
Huh. Quirky.
These are strange things I don't need to know,
But you do.
but I do. Because we had one of those for.
Well, I bought it right, cleaned it up, had fun with it for a season or two. And
we
then I
had
sold
it for a while when we lived in Sheldon. You drove it a lot.
Yeah, it was a
Put some
good car. It
miles
was a
on it.
dependable car.
Yeah, it was. But it was a brute, man.
Oh, I'm
it was
sure.
huge.
And then
That's
when we were in Sioux City, I had the opportunity to buy a Metropolitan Nash.
Oh Jesus. That was kind of a weird one too. Wasn't that just like at the end of a driveway and you drove by there and like, oh, that's strange. Like turned around and ended up buying it.
Was out in front of their place for 3 hours, and I bought it.
That's awesome. What a weird car.
Drove
Right? They look like a bathtub.
Yeah. Like
And they're
like
not really
like
that much bigger than a
and they're
bathtub.
not much
tiny.
bigger than this table either.
Yeah, they're super tiny. I don't know that I ever.
There it is.
I don't know that I ever even got to see that.
I've never
before
seen one
you
in
sold
person.
it.
I've seen pictures.
I think you may have moved that so quickly that I never saw it.
It's like a small
We had it
Miata.
for a summer, and then I had the
don't
opportunity. I took
remember
it
it that
I
long.
took it to a swap meet in Nebraska and sold it, and yeah, it was
just
a nice car.
It's just a 2-seater, right? My eyes are
Yeah, it's a
deceiving me.
2-seater, but there was a. It's not really a back seat. There's just a back
It's a shelf.
back
Shelf like the
shelf.
Audi.
It's a
yeah.
back shelf.
Okay.
I don't even think it's like the Audi. I think it's literally a shelf. Was there even a footwell in the back?
I don't think so. I think it was just a shelf. I don't remember exactly.
So is that like a
'Cause it
some
kinda- yeah,
weird
so it kinda looks like
3-cylinder
leather.
BS?
that had a 4-cylinder in it that was. It was a British motor in there, like an Austin Healey or a Triumph
Oh,
or something
really?
like that. I don't remember anymore. But a little
Weird.
4-cylinder. Manual transmission, and that was not on the floor. That was kind of in the it was weird.
Wasn't on the tree.
It was on the tree, but it wasn't on the steering column. Or maybe it was. It was just, there was something different.
Huh.
There were some dials and stuff in it. It was completely, you had to learn how to operate that car. It wasn't the same as,
That's so funny. Maybe I did drive it. You know what? I think I took Katie out in it once.
yeah, you probably did.
I think we just like did a loop and came back, and I was like, well, that was enough of that.
You had it that recently?
Yeah, it was in.
Within 5 years.
Wow.
He moves through stuff, man.
I know.
Every time I go home, he's got
Got
something
something
he
new.
didn't. He's moved one thing and replaced it with another.
That's the dream.
It's so
That's my retirement plan.
because like, what is that nasty looking purple thing you got right now?
It's blue, and it's
Get your eyes checked.
and it's a 74 or 75 grand. I don't even know what year it is. It's a Grand Am.
It's hideous.
No, they're neat cars.
It's not that. It's not.
74 grand, damn.
It's not good, Robbie. I don't like it.
That's not.
Factory moonroof in it.
Do you have any of
It's
your
74?
internationals beside the
I don't have
restored
any internationals
Scout?
right now except the Scout.
Except for the one Scout.
Yeah.
So that's the only one that's left.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the Scout.
I can never keep up with that either. Because for a while
Wait,
there,
wait.
he had like a whole collection of old international pickup trucks.
Which one, the hard top or the soft top?
That's the Scout.
It has both. That's removable.
You can,
that's
Yeah, you
perfect.
can remove the top on that.
They actually. So if you're really intrepid,
There you go.
they have. That's the picture I sent him.
Yeah.
So they have that so they have no top. They have the top that you saw. And then there is one that extends it all the way to the end, like a Suburban or
Like a topper.
Bronco,
Yeah.
like a full topper. And then I think that there's a jumper seat you can put in the back. Is there not?
Yeah, when you have the full length top, like this one here, it's just got the pickup top on it, and it's got a wall that goes from the top right behind the seats all the way down, so it's enclosed. The
It's
cab's
just bolts
enclosed.
in there.
Whereas
Like
if
a
you
Jeep?
have the
Like a
full
Jeep.
length top, then you can take that partition out
Put a
because
seat.
the passenger seat flips forward, so you can get in and out of the.
Like an
back
avalanche.
seat.
Yeah. No, because it's only got two doors.
Oh.
And then and then they have a seat that a back seat that goes in those things.
Working
it's-
on internationals is difficult because like mid-year they'll just like change parts because they were just such a small company that
Yep,
was
yep.
doing such weird things.
Well, for instance, you decide you have to put points in your international, and you go to the local parts store and say, "I need a set of points for a '67 International." Is it a Chrysler distributor? Is it a Prestolite distributor? What do you have?
I don't know. Give me both. I'll bring one back.
I need an alternator for my International. Is it a Chrysler alternator? Is it a Delco alternator? I mean, that's what International did. And when I restored this is completely restored. The motor that's in it is a 4-cylinder. They made a small 4-cylinder and a little bit bigger one, and I found the bigger one, and I rebuilt that. And then this one has the ultra rare 4-speed transmission instead of 3-speed, which, okay, whatever.
I can't imagine how terrible the 3-speed is, because that thing, dude,
it runs good with the 4-cylinder.
It'll do 70.
Yep. But was not happy about it?
I mean, it does fine, but I can't imagine I don't think you could with a 3-speed.
I think this thing is easier to get off of a stop sign and stuff with the 4-speed than the 3-speed because of your gearing differences.
I don't even know that I use first when I drive it.
But so I rebuilt all this, and halfway through, or body work's pretty much done and all that stuff. I find a 69 Scout with a 266 V8 with a 4-speed. I thought, great, I'll put this 8-cylinder in mine instead of the 4-cylinder. Yeah, well, I can see why International no longer makes vehicles. The radiator support was different. The framing on the front is different. The firewall is different. The pan inside that goes around your shifters and stuff like that, because that's removable in this truck, is different.
What a pain.
And like the radiator support is welded in. It's not like you can unbolt it and convert it. So the only way you could do this thing is completely tear a truck that I had all painted and ready to go to pieces, and it's dumb.
Can you imagine being a body guy and trying to deal with that?
That would be a nightmare.
Because they would just change stuff. And good luck finding any level of documentation.
Yep. Yeah, so you have to have like a full spreadsheet of just everything that you put into it. So when you need to replace it, you already know what it is.
If you buy a Scout to restore it, just keep in mind you better find 2 more for parts because it's going to take 3 to make 1.
And you better try and find the same year because if it's 1 year newer or older, it's probably different.
Yep.
So was this the one that originally had the cracked block?
So I bought this out of South Dakota. It had been licensed last in 1972, and it's a 67. So it was on the road for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Killing it.
And it had a 152 cubic inch 4-cylinder in it with a hole in the side of it big enough I could stick my hand in. So I just assumed that somebody let the thing freeze and the block cracked and that popped out. And when I bought the truck, it came with another motor in the bed.
Okay. That seems to be a theme for you guys.
So I pulled...
Hey, whoa.
For all of us.
Hey, whoa.
For all of us.
I pulled the dead motor out of it, and as I'm pulling it out of it, it pours out antifreeze all over the ground. So that's not what happened. They ventilated the block from the inside, not from water freezing.
Right.
Put the other motor in it and start working on the truck, and don't know where it'd been or what happened or anything like that. Pulled the front differential cover off, dropped the oil out of it, put new oil in it, went to the back, dropped that differential cover off, and the pin going through the what do I want to say, the differential inside?
Yeah.
That differential inside was shattered. How do you shatter a differential underneath a 4-wheel drive truck with a 4-cylinder motor?
It's not just a differential, but isn't that like a Dana?
It's a Dana 35.
So it's like a real diff.
Yes.
It's not like some
rinky-dink piece of junk.
Rinky-dink bullshit porcelain thing. Like it's
the real deal.
It's what people put in like real off-road rigs.
So apparently somebody was out doing something really stupid with this thing and got it stuck and kept screwing around till they shattered the rear end and then got mad and just matted the gas pedal and blew it up.
Oh my gosh. On a truck that wasn't very old at the time.
Not at all.
5-year-old truck.
Not at all. And then but that was kind of the reason that it was restorable.
Yeah.
Because those don't survive.
No.
They're so rusty. The first-gen Scouts are all rusty.
The gas tank is immediately behind the driver's door or the passenger door or both, depending on how you ordered it. You could get a gas tank on either side.
Great.
So the gas tank is in front of the rear wheels.
Okay.
So they don't have any kind of a plate or anything between the gas tank and the rear wheels. So as you're driving down the road and through the mud and stuff like that, you're throwing mud, dirt, gunk up between the gas tank and the fender.
Uh-huh.
They all rust out.
and they all rust
Yep.
out.
Every last one of them. It's like a 99 Cavalier.
Oh my gosh.
And this one was sitting for so long, and it was, dry Nebraska climate, and it was really, we took the gas tanks out of the sides and filled in the holes and everything, because I moved the gas tank to the bed,
Yep.
underneath the bed, which they have this huge space behind the rear end to put it up in the frame rails there. I don't know why International didn't go, hey, let's put the gas tank here.
This makes perfect sense.
Didn't somebody make that tank? Like, isn't that a tank for a Scout?
There's a company out in Oregon that sells International Scout parts, and this was a retrofit tank that they designed to go in that lovely space behind the rear end, right between the frame rails.
Brilliant.
And the other thing is, if somebody runs into you, you got the frame to protect the gas tank from going boom.
Yeah,
whereas
if you get T-boned,
Not good.
it's the
Yeah.
Pinto all over again. So, hilarious vehicles.
Yeah.
There's always something.
I like how it looks. It's a fun little truck.
Oh,
So,
it's super fun. I love driving.
Adam used it to go to a car cruise in a town one night,
I remember this.
and he come back and he come up with a revelation that every high school kid should have to drive either an old pickup or an International Scout. That would stop people from texting
You can't.
while you're driving.
You can't text and drive with that thing.
That's a full-time steering on that thing.
Full-time job driving.
Isn't this one that had
100%.
such play that you were like,
Oh, yeah, you can do
full
like
turn?
You can do like 20 degrees.
Oh, it isn't that bad.
Left to right, and it doesn't even wiggle. It's got a rag joint that needs replaced. It's fine.
It happens.
Isn't that what it is? There's some joint in the steering
No, the
wheel
front
that's-
end's a little loose. The gearbox is a little loose.
It's
but
not rack and pinion, I don't think, is it?
No.
Oh.
Manual brakes, or does it have a brake booster?
It's manual brakes, but it's been converted to the dual master cylinder because it originally had a single.
And power steering?
No.
No power steering.
You complained about the
Yeah,
lack of power steering.
I think so. And like, it's synchronized, but not like the best.
No.
It's synchronized, but not first.
First gear's not. I think that's why I don't use first.
Okay. Just
You have to be like sub 5 mile an hour or it won't go into first.
yeah, basically at the stop sign.
And you really don't need it. It's super low geared.
Yeah.
I just don't think I.
Well, yeah, if you
use
top out around 70.
it. Yeah. Do you even know if the 4-wheel drive works on there?
I've never tried it.
It's got 3 sticks in the center. He's never pulled on any of the other 2
It's all new, but yeah, I've never tried it. So
because it's got
Yeah, I guess,
to go
yeah,
from
what do you need?
from 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive.
well,
and then a high and a
you
low
buy
range.
a vehicle and you get it on the road, you get it running and everything, and it really looks bad. So, I'm just going to go ahead and paint it and then use it for a regular truck. And then all of a sudden, it looks so nice after it's painted. Yeah, I can't do that. So it's never been out in the snow. It's never been out in the.
One of my college roommates
Yep.
went to school for auto body and was living in Sioux City after college.
Yeah.
And he had made friends with my dad, and my dad had this thing. And Ben at the time was working for like this place, like the place that he worked at restored like Maseratis for Tim Allen.
Right.
Like they don't do things just kind of okay.
No, it's
Like
it's
they
top
have
of the line
they have
body shop.
100-point Concourse Pebble Beach cars that have come out of that shop.
Right.
And then my dad's like, I don't really want you to spend too much. Just like kind of, get it close and that's fine. That's not what happened. It's perfect almost.
He did a phenomenal job on the bodywork and stuff, but I had someone else paint it, and quite frankly, it's a fun truck.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
I love driving it.
Driving it around Sioux City, a town of 70,000 people, it's a hoot to drive around town. It's complete terror to drive it on a road 65 mile an hour or faster, though.
And you never see another one.
No.
But if you bought a Bronco or a Blazer, there'd be 2 more at every show you go to.
Well, it's a Jeep, but it's, you don't see these.
No.
But it's the same body as the early Jeeps or the early Broncos. It's the same size.
Similar shape. And
They're really short,
dimensions.
really small.
So much fun. The Scout 2s,
Yeah.
not as good.
No?
No, because they're way bigger.
I don't agree that they're not as good, but yeah,
No way.
they are a bigger body style.
These are so much cooler. I don't care what anybody says.
That's because you like little trucks.
Well, the Scout 2 is a way more popular platform.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Way more.
Oh, see, I'd pick this one.
Oh, these are super rad. I love it.
Yeah,
It's
I
one of
like the smaller
That's
one.
probably one of my favorite vehicles he's ever owned.
I keep threatening to sell it, but I
I know unequivocally
Don't miss it.
that 2 days after he sells it, he'll be mad at himself about it. There's this little S10 he had, this first-gen square-body S10,
Yeah.
and he still kicks himself about selling it like every other day. It's not going to be any different. He's going to miss it. I just know it.
Yeah. Yeah, the way he talks about it, this one, it's special.
This and the Trans Am, those are the keepers.
Yep.
So,
Well, your mom thinks that if I ever sold the Formula, I'd be really upset with myself, too.
before you bought the Trans Am, I could see that, but it's kind of weird to have a 72 or whatever Trans Am and a 76 Formula that are both kind of the same.
But that 76 Formula I have has the motor
Yeah, you won't
and
do
the
that to this
drivetrain,
one.
and it is so much fun to drive. I mean, it has more torque, more power than you could ever.
That car, I don't remember him never owning. He's had it that long.
This is the one that's been around.
Like, that has
So,
moved with us through four states.
Is this the numbers matching or the
No,
one that you've been trying to find the right?
That's the blue car.
This one I don't even
Gotcha.
care about that.
Okay,
But,
okay.
So I have this 76. It has a 455 in it, kinda, and it's built. It's got aluminum heads on it. It's got a Holley carburetor on it, headers. It's got a Tremec 5-speed in it.
It's basically the drag car motor with better heads, isn't it?
It has the potential to be a good drag car vehicle, but I've never put a cage or anything in it. And I can drive it anywhere. I can drive it in Sioux City in 100-degree weather. It takes it. It don't care. And then I have this, and I have that 2001 Trans Am Firehawk.
Yes.
And
Right.
Yes.
You're right.
Love it.
And I'll agree that there's nothing better than an LS motor, but
Yes.
But the difference between the LS motor has power and it's a fun car and everything like that.
Yep.
That Formula, you get those muscle cars, the torque that you get out of those things, it's completely different power.
Yeah.
I know you haven't had much opportunity to ride in like a big block Chevelle or
No, not
something
really.
like my Formula. You need to experience that because it's a complete different. It's a complete different sensation than what you can get out of an LS motor.
If
It really
you
is.
move where you're claiming you're going to move to, I'm gonna be traveling down. I'm gonna make you give me a ride in these cars.
He drives right by there on his way to his in-laws.
Yeah. And if I'm not against taking a stop and taking less
But
time with
you've
my
driven
in-laws.
it, you've ridden in it, don't you agree?
Absolutely.
The torque on those
That
cars
car,
is just so different
like,
than.
Oh, yeah.
It's smoky tires on demand.
Perfect.
Just like the lightest tap of the loud pedal, and there's just
Just
roll.
this big smile and a big
That car is-
thing of smoke.
Was that the one I almost put in the ditch?
The Formula?
When I was like 16, you made me.
I had a 79 Trans Am, a white one.
He made me I think we were coming home from the driver's license station. And he made me drive that, and I was like, "Oh, I'm
King
big
shit.
tough Mr. 16-year-old," and I just about put it in the ditch. They come on hard.
Every person should be required to drive a stick.
I don't
Yes,
disagree with
I
that.
completely agree with that.
But yeah, the power comes on hard with those. It's quite the ride.
Yeah, no, I get it. Learning to drive with a Volkswagen Jetta or a Malibu is not teaching anybody
Yeah.
anything.
When you did driver's ed, didn't they have?
When I did driver's ed, was 6 weeks of driver's ed, 3 weeks with an automatic car, 3 weeks with a stick.
That is awesome.
Did you have something silly?
Except the thing that I had with a stick was a little Ford Mercury Bobcat, which is a Pinto.
I thought you had something silly for your.
No, I bought a car, a 1969 Impala, when I was in high school. It's a 69 Impala. It was a 427 4-speed car, bench seat, as big as a room in a house. I mean, they're huge cars.
Nice sofa.
And going through some of the history on that car was sold out of an auto dealership in a town 20 miles away. But for the first summer before it got sold, that town used that car for driver's ed. So we have 15-year-old kids learning how to drive a 69 Impala with a 427.
That is awesome.
That's the best. I learned in a Malibu.
Learned in
And you never learned with
Golf.
a stick, did you?
No.
Yeah, well, I learned in my dad's TDI Jetta, which is the most forgiving clutch I've ever driven.
I learned in a Chevy Love in our pasture.
A millennial auto deterrent.
Yeah.
Theft deterrent.
Theft deterrent.
Absolutely. Because I think that was what I learned how to drive stick on,
Chevy Love.
was the Love.
Yeah.
In
Didn't he
In
say,
the pasture.
Wasn't so I wrecked that,
Yeah.
and that was like the one part you needed to make the other one.
There was a
you
front
had.
bumper that I wanted off that to put on another one that I was putting together, and
Right.
and you tore that up.
Yeah. Put it in a fence.
And then not too long after your Montego, because you didn't have the Montego very long.
I only had it 6 months.
And then we get you that Ford Escort
The
that had that
Escort.
5-speed in it.
Yep.
And you really learned to love the sticks with that Escort.
That was the Montego until the Blazer was the only thing I'd ever owned that was not a manual transmission, and I only had that 6 months.
Right.
And
Well,
then
you had that Escort for quite a while, though.
right, I had the Escort and the Cavalier, and then the 2 Audis and the
Yep.
S10. All of those were manuals. So the Blazer was the first thing I bought
Yeah.
that wasn't a manual.
So you want to hear something really sad about all this?
Yes.
His significant other doesn't know how to drive a stick.
We've
Does
talked
yours?
broke.
I don't know.
She could hop in the 240
she grew up
today
on,
and
like, a
take it.
farm.
Yeah, she could drive a tractor. She could drive a skid loader. She
that's
could drive
fair.
anything with a clutch.
That's fair.
She's a Missouri farm girl.
But like, I can't teach Katie.
yes, you can.
No, I
No,
cannot.
No.
This would
That's
be
a
the
bad
perfect YouTube video.
No, he or even you probably, who would be actually probably be better, could teach Katie.
I could be patient
But here's the thing:
or not.
I haven't had a vehicle that because like I wasn't going to put her in a TT. That's got
No.
$2,000 clutch in it, and then I wasn't going to put her in the S10 because
No.
The S10 was a phenomenal vehicle to run the stick in.
yeah, it
though.
probably would have been all right.
That'd be of the options.
I mean, if
think
I
that'd be
have
the
to
best
teach
one.
her right now, what am I going to put her in, a Hawk?
The Scout.
No.
Well, that's part of the problem is that I just haven't had the right vehicle.
Yeah, you kind of need a forgiving one, or at least one that.
Or not something stupid.
We put her in the Scout. She'll never drive a stick again.
Right. She won't either.
Yes, they both-
She won't anyway.
Both mine are like $6, so that's not going to work.
Yeah, like I'm not going to teach her in the Omni.
No, the
No.
best thing I would have probably would be the Firehawk.
Yeah,
Yeah. Which is
hydraulic clutch.
yeah,
is
that
a-
one wouldn't be too bad.
a rear wheel drive LS. Like that's still not
It's got power, so
still not the best thing to learn in. It'd be by far and away the fastest.
No,
thing
it's a
she's
good thing
ever
to learn
driven.
it. She just needs to, you just drive it sensibly. She's not, until she has experience with it, she wouldn't be ready to raise hell with it. But
No.
You're not going to take her to Ottawa and teach her how to race or how to drive clutch on the drag strip. Is that what you're telling me?
no.
Come on.
And the formula's not bad to drive either, but that's all linkage. That's not hydraulic and that. And that
you
is a
can
little
feel,
bit tougher.
You can feel that. It's a lot less forgiving.
And it's real easy to put either not enough gas and kill it or way too much gas and launch it on that car.
yeah. Which is fine when you want it. Katie wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, that'd be tough to learn with.
Katie would be scared with that. You need to buy another Chevy Love and a place with a pasture, Dad. You're looking at houses. Make sure you got a pasture for me.
You need land. Well, Missouri's full of land, so I mean, you got that going for you.
Seems to be all I can find.
Yeah.
We need to have another solstice, maybe.
Oh, you're telling me.
No, Sky.
Can you-
Sky. I even.
Oh, no, God, no. Those things are hideous
No
looking.
way.
No,
Dude,
no.
I genuinely like because
Yeah, I listened to that podcast. You and Michael were both so wrong.
yeah, but we talked
The
about
skies
it.
are
We talked
horrible.
about it.
Talked
We
about
talked
it
about it
last week too, and there's tons of people in the group who are like, dude, what do you see in the solstice? Like, I don't think I've ever met another
It's good.
person who's like, yeah, solstice is the better one.
No, it definitely is the better
I
one.
posted on Instagram, and it's split pretty much 50-50.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
there was
thank God.
a lot of people commented it was one or the other.
Thank God.
But everyone has an opinion about it, which is
Go in there and
kind
talk
of
to people
surprising.
about it. It's a weird car.
It should be a more popular car.
Yeah,
I think I've said it like a million times.
I should buy.
I mean-
Well, the problem with these cars is Pontiac screwed up, and then Saturn took on the car too, and they
Yeah.
have the same problem. There is, you got that huge trunk in the back, but once you fold that, but there's no place to put
it's not
anything
really
in there.
that big when it's up, when the hood or when
No,
the,
you have a little spot. You would have trouble putting a small duffel bag in that thing. It's horrible.
if I remember right, Because I remember when I was in it with my mom one day, and I was flipping through the owner's manual, and they had like the cubic footages of storage.
Yeah.
And it was something silly like 3.2 cubic feet with the top up, and with the top down it was like 0.6 or something like
grief.
that. It was just totally useless.
Yeah, it's a toy and nothing more.
Mom couldn't even like take it to the grocery store by herself to buy food for a family of 4.
Only if you put it in the passenger seat.
Right, it all had to go in
room.
the passenger seat, and even then, you had
the
to
engineer
be
come
careful.
up with that idea should have been slapped.
Like people joke about, Corvettes are designed so you can fit 2 golf bags in the back, but like they're functional vehicles because of it.
Right.
So
These are fun cars to drive.
so much fun.
Yeah, it was.
I've never driven one. I've wanted
It's
to.
the great.
It was nimble, and we had the first year they came out, so we didn't have the
turbo,
but we just had the regular. Was it Eco?
2.4 Ecotech.
Yeah,
It was a fun
that's got
car.
a little bit of power. I mean, it doesn't need a lot. It doesn't weigh much.
No, it didn't weigh much, and you can go around corners with it. I mean, it did everything you wanted to, and if you really wanted to get stupid with it, there was a company like in New Jersey or something that made the kit.
Mallet or Mallet, one of the two.
Try mallet.
They made like this ridiculous wide body for it. Looked fucking sweet.
I believe it. Yeah, I'm surprised this just didn't get more popular because it would be a great autocross car, track car. I mean, it just.
I don't know. There must be something I don't know.
Maybe there's just no support.
I think that's probably what it is.
You know,
Well,
no,
in this
no
day and age,
suspension.
for some reason, when you find one, it's got a builder's title.
All of them. They're either automatics or salvage titles.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You don't want the salvage title. It's never right.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
I know. So, how long are we into this for?
Well, hour 38.
Should we shut her down?
Yeah,
I know we're going
pretty
to do a
good.
little different format this week.
Yeah,
we
'cause we're not-
decided we didn't even want to deal with news.
No.
Just
But we can still push people towards ApexTrackCoach.com.
absolutely.
And they have the new Lap Timer Plus.
This looks super cool.
So it's a subscription service that you add to your already Apex Pro app, and it'll give you predictive lap times, and you can also use it for like different best lap analysis. Analysis.
I
don't know. Analysis. And then you can even do like gear calculations based on the OBD2 data that if you get that adapter as well.
Yep.
So I like where they're going.
Fun new things.
They have the unit, the Apex Pro unit, which of course you can still get with the free mount with our 1010 code. But then they also have the OBD2 adapter, and they also have this new Lap Timer Plus. So they're heading in probably to be competitive with everybody now. Because what everyone was complaining about was that they didn't have predictive lap times because they were so used to it with the other systems.
Solos.
Yep, and now at like half the price, Apex Pro's got it.
Andrew is involved in this instructor summit thing.
Yep. I've
which
been
looks really cool.
Yeah, I've been following them on Facebook because I gave them some of my data, which of course the only Heartland Park data I had was on a wet track.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I think I have a dry session where I spun out even.
Yep. So then I had 2 different configurations.
Oh, that's right.
Because the full course was on
about
wet, and the NASCAR or whatever course was on dry. So I sent him that and was like, hey, it might be kind of weird because it had wet spots. It wasn't a wet course. It had standing water on turn
whatever
11 or whatever it was, and then a couple other spots with standing water.
14.
So, yeah, 14 for sure.
That was a real bad one.
Yeah, that was the river. But yeah, I've been following them. So yeah, Instructor Summit on Facebook is a lot of those guys are all kind of teaming up. So Andrew, even Ross Bentley's been doing stuff on there. So I mean, it's great resources.
Kind of the future of HPDE training.
Yeah, which is good.
So cool stuff. Check it out.
Did this go how you thought it would go? Is there anything?
Absolutely.
It
was everything I wanted it to be.
You both have each other on the hot seat for a few more minutes.
I don't want to.
Everybody remember, contact Adam to
Christ.
get him started on the swap meet area. You guys will enjoy it. Trust me.
I know.
I'm in. Oh, by the way, I wanted to thank Dusty for getting me this well-fitted shirt. Schmedium is the size. You can tell because it doesn't fit me, Dusty. Look at these arms. Look at this.
When this comes out,
This is exactly why Adam complains about shirts.
when this comes out, I'm gonna be hanging out with Dusty.
Am I getting a new shirt?
He said he was gonna try and dig one up for you.
Is he forgetful like you?
Well, he told me he was gonna send me those 2 months ago.
So, yeah, he won't remember.
And then he was like, that was dumb. I should have just waited till Super Lap.
So thank you for the medium shirt, Dusty. It fits great. It sits under my armpits good.
Oh, so gross.
Completely shows my arm, so I can just do this.
Gotta show off that sweet
Show off
tat,
my guns,
Robbie.
my tats, and my tan. I have
Farmer's
I have no tan. Actually, it's kind of uncomfortable. It's a little undersized. I feel like an early 2000s punk band. Like Simple Plan. That's not punk, but you know what I mean. Those guys with their little shirts.
Right.
Their skinny little bodies.
Yeah.
We'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks. Thanks, Dad. I know you didn't want to do this.
When do I get paid for this?
Never.
When we get paid
As
for
soon as
this.
we got 5 cents from Drive Tribe today, so we're killing it.
No, 6.5 cents American.
Oh, that's right.
6.5 cents American.
Because it comes in Great British pounds. So that exchange rate was really good to us. I already turned in my 2 weeks. So.
Yeah, this has been fun. We should definitely do it again. Especially when you come down and let me drive all your cars.
Or when you come down.
Either way, I'm down.
So.
If you want to drive my cars, you might have to help me move.
Someone's got to get them from Sioux City to Missouri.
I'm pretty sure, even in this day and age, you're only allowed to pay people with soda and pizza. So if you let me drive your cars and pay me in pizza and soda, I'm down.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Just get me on a weekend. I'm not racing. I'm all for it.
It's going to be the tough part.
Yeah, not May. As long as you're not doing it in May.
Right? Holy crap.
I have something almost every weekend in May.
Yeah, it's going to be rough.
Actually, a full week, then every weekend.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
One lap.
One lap.
So.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm just rambling at this point.
All right.
So we'll catch you guys next week.